Today, we're addressing a question we hear more and more often. Where in 2026 can you realistically obtain a second citizenship legally with a clear and transparent roadmap, without any magic passports in 2 weeks, without questionable schemes, and without risking your time or money? All routes to second citizenship within our practice can be broadly divided into three logical concepts. And in just a moment, you'll understand which one is the closest to your situation. The first path is citizenship based on family roots and documentary grounds. Very often, this is the fastest and strongest option because you're not asking for a passport, you're confirming a legal right that already exists. The second path is naturalization. This route is based on lawful residence in a country, meeting the established requirements and applying for citizenship strictly according to the rules. The third path involves investment or family-based grounds, such as marriage, where the law allows for a more direct procedure under specific conditions. Let's start with directions where everything depends on documents and family ties. When it comes to Israel, I'll put it this way. If a person has the legal right to repatriation, this is one of the most straightforward citizenship paths that exist today. Many people lose years simply because they postpone checking their eligibility, even though sometimes everything depends on a single archival document. In this case, it's critical not to hold, but to verify whether the grounds qualify, which documents are required, how to build a solid chain of evidence, and how to correctly prepare and translate the paperwork. This is exactly where the most mistakes happen, not because process is inherently difficult, but because details truly matter. At Visa, then, we always start with diagnosis. We review your case, assess whether the grounds are realistic, and only then build a clear and legal route. Lithuania is not about speed, it's about precision. In practice, most complications arise not because of the procedure itself, but due to improperly prepared documents, variation in surname spellings, lost archival records, incomplete information about relatives. All of these are critical issues. Without a systematic approach, such nuances almost inevitably lead to refusals or long delays. At Visa, then, we don't start with filing. We start with an in-depth review. We assess whether there is a real right to Lithuanian citizenship, which documents can be restored, which archives need to be involved, and where the potential risks lie. Only if the overall picture makes sense do we build a step-by-step legal strategy. This approach allows our clients to move forward without illusions and with a clear understanding of the expected outcome. Now let's talk about Moldova, a direction that is often underestimated and unfairly so. For those who have repatriation grounds, this can be a very practical solution. The key here is not to romanticize it, but also not to dismiss it. For some, it's a passport for the sake of passport. For others, it's a real tool to expand family opportunities and international mobility. What matters most is correctly confirming the legal grounds and completing the procedure without amateur mistakes. Another country that comes up very frequently is Romania. And here I want to be very direct. If a person has the right to Romanian citizenship, postponing the eligibility check is a strategic mistake. Queues, timeliness, and current review practices all make an early start especially valuable. This is not a fast process, but the result is an EU passport that opens an entirely different level of freedom and choice. And once again, the details matter: documents, proper filing, and the correct sequence of actions. At Visa, then, we manage the process so that you don't waste time on chaotic attempts or face situations where everything seemed fine, but the case is ultimately sent back. Now, let's move on to naturalization, the option most often chosen by people without ancestral grounds, but with clear plan. Mexico is one of the most flexible naturalization options among our key destinations. Many people are surprised, but in 2026, this route remains fully viable. You live in the country legally, maintain your status, meet the requirements, and eventually qualify for citizenship. Yes, it's not instant, and yes, everything must be done strictly by the rules. But if you're looking for a second passport outside Europe with a clear logic and ability to plan your life long term, Mexico often turns out to be a very strong option, especially for those who want a warm climate, solid infrastructure, and transparent procedure without turning the process into a lottery. There's also an important point that not everyone is aware of. Mexican citizenship does not always have to be final destination. In future, holding Mexican citizenship may give you access to a simplified pathway towards Spanish citizenship. Now let's talk about Chile. This is not the destination for those who want the fastest possible result. It is, however, a destination for people who value stability, clear rules, strong institutions, and the long-term strategy. If you're ready to live in the country, adapt, and comply with the requirements, citizenship through naturalization becomes a realistic and achievable goal. The key here is building the route in advance so there are no gaps in the documents, legal status, or timeliness. Next, let's look at a category where the law allows for a more direct procedure under specific conditions. Turkey is one of the few countries where citizenship can be obtained through investment or marriage. Proved it fits your situation and that you're prepared to operate strictly within the legal framework. Turkey is not a cheap passport, but regulated state program. People often run into trouble when they try to save money at the verification stage, whether it's the transaction, the documents, or the source of funds. That's exactly where problems begin. The correct approach is strategy and due diligence first, action second. At Visa then, this is precisely the order we follow, from assessing the option and structuring the process to achieving the final result. And now for a key point that many people overlook. Even if your ultimate goal is citizenship, a residence permit is often part of the overall strategy, and this is where we have a full range of proven destinations. If your priority is establishing yourself in Europe through a career path, Germany often becomes the most predictable option via qualified employment. This is about strong economy, clear requirements, and long-term prospects for the whole family. But it's important to remember that in these processes, details decide everything. Correct documents, diplomas, contracts, timeliness, and filing logic. If you earn income remotely and want European residency, Spain and Portugal are often at the top of the list thanks to their clear frameworks for remote professionals and entrepreneurs. The most common fear we hear is, what if they refuse because of the paperwork? And this is exactly the situation where a well-prepared dossier matters more than the idea itself. We structure applications so they look confident, logical, and complete, not improvised. If you are considering residency as a home base in the EU through an investment approach, Greece remains one of the most transparent options. Status can be obtained immediately for the entire family, allowing you to plan your life calmly and strategically. Here, transaction transparency is critical. Documents, payments, and property selection must all be verified in advance. If you're looking for a European trajectory through a classic, well-structured bureaucratic system, Italy, France, Austria, and Hungary can be all part of a broader strategy depending on your profile, income, and long-term goals. For some, education and a stable environment for children are key. For others, it's business and asset protection. Each case requires its own tailored route. If your goal is fast, convenient business hub and a resident status, the United Arab Emirates remains one of the strongest options for entrepreneurs and internationally minded professionals. The key here is navigating the procedures correctly so the status is stable and comfortable for the entire family. Serbia is another destination many people choose as a comfortable place to live and work with a clear legalization process. And when it comes to the UK and the United States, we support clients with visa-based pathways when the goal is education, employment, or long-term planning that requires a well-prepared application strategy. Why am I talking so much about residence permits in a video about citizenship? Because in practice, what really works is a combination. You start with a clear goal, then choose a legally sound first step, and only after that move towards citizenship where it is truly realistic. Sometimes this is a single country, sometimes it's a combined strategy, legal status in one jurisdiction and citizenship in another, if that better serves your family and long-term plans. And here is the principle that saves people years of time. Don't choose a country based on rumors. Choose based on your actual goals and circumstances. Income, family, documents, silentness, language, budget, everything matters. At Visa, we don't sell dreams. We build routes that are designed to be completed. So, how does this work in practice? First, diagnostics. We assess what you have in terms of documents and legal grounds. Then, strategy. Which path is realistic, what the risks are, the timeliness, and what your plan A and plan B look like. Then documents, translations, forms, confirmations, and a coherent application logic. And finally, full support through to the result, not just filing for the sake of filing. If you're considering a second citizenship in 2026 and want to understand which options truly fit your situation, write to us. The Visa team will select the optimal solution and guide you through all the way to result. This was Mia, and you're watching Visa. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.